Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone, and sorry that we are late today. Ah, so today we'll be discussing about the research framework. So after the completion of the literature review, so we come across the understanding towards the literature, and then actually we come forward with some of the framework that we can utilize in the next course of our research writing. So research framework is the topic that we are going to discuss today. And we have to have these few of the learning objective that we will cover today. We must be able to understand the difference between the concept and the theory. That is the objective number one that we like to cover. Then we know the conceptual and theoretical framework. What are the differences between them and how they are actually having their own understanding and the issues that we need to keep in mind. Then the purpose of the conceptual and theoretical framework, the learning objective are outcome three, and the four theoretical framework template. So these are the four learning objective or top outcome that we like to achieve. So first of all, we need to understand concept and theory. So there are two different things. So the concept is an idea and formally developed or organized. So it means it is actually a concept is a idea and that is actually organized and have an understanding towards it, and it have maybe multiple concept or a issue at a theory is a set of concepts. It means there are many concepts that are associated or attached to a theory, a model, principle, definition, and that makes sense of a phenomena by determining relationship among variables. Theories are established and validated by experiment and evidence. So it means concepts are phenomena understanding, and in theory there are different phenomena that are connected in a way that it give rise to a understanding. And normally theories are actually here to establish the relationship between the different concept of variables. So we need to understand concept is one, and there may be different variable to operationalize or to understand. I mean, concept and variable are not same. They are different from each other, and normally they have a broader distinguish the difference between. So a theory is a concept or set of concept, model, principle, definition, and these actually make a sense of a phenomena and it determines the relationship between the variables. Theories are established like theory of planned behavior, theory of reason action, uh, technology adoption model, UTAT, Unified Theory of Technology Acceptance and Use. So these are all theories. So in these theory, there are different concepts, and that concept are organized in a manner that it gives rise to the association between them. Actually underpin our study in the theory. So theories are established and validated. The next thing that we like to actually talk about the type of the framework, the conceptual and the theoretical framework. So what are the conceptual framework? What are the theoretical framework? So as we actually talk about the concept and a theory, so conceptual framework is actually based on the concept and theoretical framework based on the theories that how these variables are actually associated with. A conceptual framework is a representation of the relationship to expect to see between your variables are the characteristics or the properties that we want to study. Conceptual framework can be written or visualized and generally developed based on the literature review of existing study in your topic. So it means a conceptual framework is actually based on the different concepts that we understand in literature review, how to actually operationalize our variable and how the concept are developed from one stage to another stage, and how the variables that may be operationalized to understand the concept are there to actually utilize or understand the phenomena at hand. So it means conceptual framework is a representation of the relationship between variables. So normally it is a written or maybe a visual representation, and actually we get from the literature. So it means the literature actually give us or guide us to develop our conceptual framework. But keep in mind, concepts are different than the variable or maybe. Purpose of conceptual framework is excuse me. So a conceptual framework is actually providing us a roadmap for our study, and it actually helps us to visualize and our research project into action. It actually helps us to define it actually define the relevant variable in your study and map out how they might be related. It is actually conceptual framework is a roadmap how the initial variable they get into a relationship between either each other, and then how it actually emerge from one concept to another. So it means it is actually our development of one concept into another concept, how they are related, and if they are variables that we actually like to professionalize, so how they actually come from one variable to another variable. So conceptual framework have different uses. So there are two uses that we actually utilize a conceptual framework. For quantitative study, conceptual framework provide us things or the question that we need to ask, generate our hypothesis and the explanation and the prediction that outcome are endogenous variable that we are. So quantitative study, when we are utilizing conceptual framework, so conceptual framework in a quantitative study help us that what would be the question that we need to put forward or decide, how the variable are related to each other. It means the hypothesis development and the prediction of the outcome or the conceptual. For a qualitative study, the conceptual framework is utilized to actually build the research question, build some of the working hypothesis, not the hypothesis like a quantitative study, but maybe research question and the objective, or to identify the explored category in a descriptive study or research. So it means normally when we are dealing with the conceptual framework, so they have different purposes for the quantitative study and qualitative. For qualitative study, it is more about the generating the research question, how the concepts are interrelated, and that may give rise to some outcome or maybe give rise to the answering the research question, or maybe offering the categories that may actually come forward in a descriptive or exploratory study. In a quantitative studies, the conceptual framework actually help us to decide about the research question or the question item that maybe we are like to ask, and the data that we like to generate and the hypothesis development, because it still reflects the relationship between. An example of the conceptual framework is in front of us, because there are networking sport, financial sport, training sport. So these are concepts. It create another concept, self-efficacy. That self-efficacy relate to another concept, that is the outcome expectancy. The knowledge, the sharing factor in the certain organization that lead to the outcome expectation, and that outcome expectation lead to another variable that is startup intention. Self-efficacy, knowledge sharing, and the outcome expectation lead to the startup intention, and startup intention lead to the startup preparation. So actually, there is no theory that actually able us to determine the relationship. It is actually the concept that we study in the literature that come give rise to the understanding how one concept is related to another concept and in terms of value. So it means there is no established relationship. The established relationships are only come from the literature, not from one single source. Another thing that we like to discuss, that is conceptual theoretical framework. So what are the purpose of theoretical framework? So a theoretical framework introduce and describe the theory underpinning the research problem. I mean, there are many theories that actually already there to describe the phenomena or the problem in a certain area. Thus, theoretical frameworks support research by describing and drawing from relevant theoretical aspects obtained in previous work. I mean, it is already established, so mostly the relationship between the variable that in a given theory is already established, and we have the build hypothesis there. So it's a general understanding in a undergraduate honor work or the final and maybe the master research. So there are actually maybe one or maximum two theoretical framework are utilized. For the PhD, so it actually requires a substantial contribution to the college, not only the application. So that may require two or more theory or more than two theory or three theories to actually work together or actually give rise to the understanding to actually contribute. So theoretical framework is a foundational review of the existing theory, offering roadmap with the argument of growth. So it means there are theories that are already there and which actually guide us to build our new understanding, a new application of a theory, or maybe extending the theory, or someone or some way maybe building a new theory. So we already understand that theory explains the phenomena, collecting variable to make the prediction. So it means in a theory, it is already decided which variable come at which stage, how they are related to each other, the variable, and how is the final outcome of the model of the theory. Theoretical framework justify and contextualize the research and a crucial part of it. So theories are actually quite good to justify or contextualize. So it means theories are there to actually help us and to maybe enable us to facilitatively conduct our research. So theoretical framework template that what we need to look at are the things that when we are developing the theoretical framework. So there are some questions that we need to keep in mind, and if we answer these questions thoroughly, so then actually it helps us to develop a theoretical framework. Research aim and objective. What are our research aim and objective at hand? What theory or maybe more than one theory that we are willing to use? Why this theory? So every theory have a context, every theory have a background, and every theory have a justification why and how. So what are our reasons of applying the theory or maybe more than one theory? We may come across a different model in a research practical framework where more than one or two theories are actually utilized, but because they are actually quite close to each other, theories are quite close to each other, as well as the theories are necessary to extend our understanding towards. Another thing that we need to understand the theoretical school. So maybe some theories are traditional, considered to be traditional theories, or maybe you can say the emergent theories, or maybe contradictory. That they may be insignificant. Evidence are there to utilize the theory in all these things. So some theories are behavioral, some theories are practice or psychological. So we need to understand that what are the theoretical domain from which the theories belong. What are the key concepts? So every theory has their own concept or variable that they are there, and we actually utilize them to understand or to operationalize our own risk. So what are the key concepts in the theory and that your own research theoretical? The relationship between the concept and the aim objective and from the objective. So it means what are the theory, what are the concept or the variables that are utilized in the theory, what the literature said about it, if it is a contextualized, so what are the contexts that actually offer our understanding or the evidence to utilize or to establish hypothesis. So how are you using the theory or concept? So maybe sometimes we use the different notation or the meaning of the concept in our own model or study. So it means how we are using the theory or the concept. Are you the first? Sometime actually you may be the first to contextualize the study in another context or a phenomena. Like once a few days, a few months back, we are actually utilizing the value-based value belief norm theory that is mostly utilized in the green behavior or green consumption. So actually, we utilize it for the entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. So we actually can claim that if we are the first to actually utilize this theory to actually operationalize the social. So there may be some drawback. You're utilizing the theory, so there may be some shortcomings, drawback, the issues, or conceptualization problem that we need to understand. Then the relationship between the concept or the hypothesis that need to be developed. So we understand that there are different concepts that are associated in a theory, and that theory actually give rise a logical understanding of moving from one variable to another variable, so that it helps us to build the relationship between the concept and hypothesis. So an example of a theory that is theory of planned behavior. So we know that attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control are associated with the behavioral intention. So that behavioral intention is the outcome of three variables. And perceived behavioral control is also affecting the behavior, and the intention, behavioral intention, affect the behavior. It means these things are actually established that these are the variable or the concept that we are utilizing in a theory, so that it emerges another concept of behavioral intention from the three first stage variable, and the perceived behavioral control and the first stage variable also influence the behavior towards the actually doing or operationalizing the fact. But we need to understand that the attitude is a concept. And here that concept is actually operationalized in a variable as well. So attitude towards behavior, the actual meaning of the concept here at the first stage. Subjective norm. So subjective norm is actually how the people perceive the things as normal, or they facilitate, the social facilitation is there so that people positively think about the behavior to do, intention to behave. Perceived behavioral control, that what kind of facilities, benefit, or maybe facilitations are there that sometimes, if they are available, that facilitate, or otherwise, if they are not available, that restrict the behavior to execute. So it also affects the intention as well as the. So these things are established, and these variables, which are actually the concept but operationalized in a variable, are having a certain association or relationship between the later on variable like behavior intention. And so theoretical framework actually give us an understanding, and a theoretical framework can be applied, a theory can be applied in different contexts. Like this theory, theory of planned behavior, you actually saw them in the adoption of the technology, adoption of a behavior, a change behavior, as well as sometimes you can say the uh, social issues or behavioral issues. So these are actually quite widely applied in different circumstances and contexts. So it means a theoretical framework actually give rise to understanding or the association between the variable, and that is actually having their foundation or the quote from the theory. So theory is actually enabling the relationship between the concepts, and that concept are associated, are rationalized in a way that it gives rise to the outcome. So it means we can predict the behavior from the theory of that. So in this way, when we complete our literature review, so we are able to have a conceptual framework or a theoretical framework, and certainly the literature is there that give rise to our understanding towards the concept and then concept relationship. And if these are merely a concept, so these are only giving rise to model or the relationship between the concepts, so that is called a conceptual framework. So a theoretical framework is actually again a association or relationship between the concept and the variable, but they are established model. And so one thing that we need to keep in mind that there are different definitions of one concept as well. Thirdly, there are different definitions that can answer one kind of association between the variable. So we need to be intelligently giving the answer that why a theory or theoretical framework is actually based on one theory or more than. So what I talk towards that developing the template, that this template may help us to actually understand or develop our own theoretical framework, that we need to actually attach our framework with the research aim and objective. So maybe in the earlier stage, maybe we need to develop the candidate theory that can be applied. And then actually we need to select one theory or maybe more than one theory that we are willing to apply. So then we must come up with a reason why it works. What are the conditions that actually facilitate the answer why we are applying this specific theory. Then actually the definition of the key concept and the relationship or the association between the key concept in a theory or theoretic. So then actually we give rise to the different meaning that we have and how we are actually making some contribution and the limitation that the concept are the theory that we need to address. And then actually the theoretical framework give rise to the a kind of association that we try to build and test in hypothesis. In terms of hypothesis are the relationship. So this is all for today. So we actually today cover that at the end, the theoretic literature review. So what are the outcome that we have? The outcome that we have understanding toward the concept or the theories that are there, and what are the definition or the meaning of the concept, and how the different concepts that are associated between them, among them, and what are the theories that are available or documented in the literature, and how these theories can be utilized for your own study. Then we come across to the conceptual and theoretical framework. So conceptual framework is actually the relationship between the concept that are to study and that we want to study, or maybe actually forward in the. So similarly, theoretical framework is the framework that is based on theory and that actually give rise to understanding how the association is there between the concept of the operationalized principle. And theory that is actually giving rise to a foundation, how these relationships can be established or fact, come into effect, or maybe they are established. So the purpose of conceptual and theoretical framework, and then actually last we discuss about the uh, template or the specific setting or the question that we need to answer so that we can develop a theoretical. So that's all for the day. So hopefully you have some questions so you can ask, and maybe you can forward the question when you like to have, so that people to reflect on it and for example. So we may be waiting for a few minutes so that if someone like to ask anything, so they can. Otherwise, this presentation will be available online so that you can watch in your own time. And if you have any question to ask, so you can ask. Thank you. Okay, so that's all for the day. So hopefully to see you again. So that's all from my side. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. Have a nice day ahead. Goodbye.